Welcome back to Coaches on the Beach. Today we are going to be talking about previous week, talking about upcoming week, but most importantly, we're going to start talking about the tournament, who we see is in, who we see is out, that type of thing, which on the front end of this, we have no say in it. So anything that you take offense to that we're about to say, think about it.
That's on you. That's on you. Listen, I'm not responsible for your feelings. That's what we talk about all the time. Not responsible for other people's feelings.
Colin, how's everything going for you? Anything in the rankings shaping up to your liking, or anything that brings importance? I guess.
Shaping up to my liking, no, because I'm not in it. And
Ah.
so that's always a bummer. I think, it was interesting to see FIU jump up a spot because they beat Tulane and Florida Gulf. Florida Gulf beat up on Tulane twice. Tulane and FIU split, including a 5-0 over FIU. It's always interesting. We continue to avoid the teams dropping after not playing. So congratulations to Grand Canyon and Georgia
Yeah.
State. I thought it was tough to watch UNF because I think they are a really promising team, and
Hmm.
and I think the schedule just was tough on them. But they played Hawaii really close, took match wins over LMU and Long Beach, which is nothing to shake a stick at. It was nice to see Hawaii get some good wins,
Hmm.
including Stetson
Hmm.
and that North Florida team, like we talked about. The ASUN schools struggled to travel all the way out west, although Stetson, I would call a win over LMU a good win. LMU struggling a little bit, even though they did get their Olympian back in the lineup and seem to be back at full strength after the Elite 16. Tough to take those losses to Cal Poly and Stetson.
Yeah.
Other than that, everything's shaken out as I don't want to say as expected, but kind of as expected. I think Arizona State and TCU had a nice tight match. We were talking about that a little bit earlier, but it's hard to beat a good team three times. So you like to think Arizona State has a chance to get them at least once. But when will it be? Will it be in this week? Will it be at the Big 12 championships? And so that's a little bit on the TBD.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that is something really cool. I think one of the questions that popped into my head was UCLA has kind of been rolling this season. They've been really racking up the wins. Seems to be having really nice games, and then this weekend they came out 2-2. This is the second weekend in a row they've not gone flawless, and is that something to be concerned about? Do we think Triple J is going to get the team ready to go for the tournament? How do you think that's going to play out?
I think if your losses are going to come to number one, number six, and number three, I think you're going to be okay. In
Yeah.
general, that's just a great opportunity in the season to see what you need to get better at.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you like to do it earlier in the year, but when you're winning, you're winning. It's nice to get that figured out. Like I already said, it's tough to beat a good team three times. So if it comes down to you versus Cal Poly, I don't know how you feel being 2-0 on the season, right? If it comes down to you versus LMU, I don't know how you feel being 2-0 on the season. So getting a split there, probably not the worst thing on the face of the planet. If I know anything, Triple J gets fired up for championship and tourney time, and so I would expect UCLA to make a really good run at the MPSF, and I would expect them to be playing a couple days into the national tournament.
Yeah, and I think the other team, like just walking down the road, basically, USC, you got to look at them and think about what they've done the past couple years of that building. They had their 4-0 weekend this weekend. Is this the turnaround that they're going to start making their tournament run now?
Yeah, I mean, what is a turnaround for USC? I think
True.
like that's such a tough. I'm not really sure. Oh man, USC turns out still good. I know everybody's shocked by that. Yeah, so I guess yeah, turn around because they haven't had maybe the year that they were hoping for. Although they were one of the only teams to beat UCLA, they've got a whopping six losses on the season. I know. However, will you come back from your loss to LSU, TCU, Cal, Florida State, right? And granted, most of those coming in one really long road trips, so to speak, right? A TCU Monday loss, then you fly out to Baton Rouge day after travel, notoriously not Southern
Yeah.
Cal's strong point is the flight followed by the match. I think you can see that in the national tournament when they showed up and woke up, had the first match of the day the next day, and lost to Stetson. Right, that's the biggest upset we've had in beach volleyball championship history.
Mm-hmm.
When South Carolina beat them back in 2018, that was a Wednesday morning after they took the red eye flight Tuesday night. So that's not setting you up for the most success ever. And then same thing when they flew out to Hilton Head Island during the COVID season and lost to Grand Canyon and South Carolina again. Both right, they came in, they landed late the night before, they woke up, they played those two matches, and they lost them both. I think the travel schedule added what, four losses to USC's schedule, so they really have like two or three losses.
Mm-hmm.
Stanford, LMU, Cal, and I don't know. I don't feel too terrible if those
Yeah.
are my
Yeah.
three losses going into the season. I think I'm okay with any of that, but calling it a turnaround would be tough just with how strong they are as a program.
I'm just trying to be a little bit decisive, you know.
Yeah.
Throw some words to get some people's attention, I guess.
Yeah,
Um,
USC struggle. I like that. That's my favorite word. Favorite word to get people's attention.
I think the third team that I'm kind of looking at and seeing is another national championship coach, Texas. You know that they're really picking that up towards the end of the season. Heard from a couple people that have played them, including yourself. They're good. They
Turns
got
out
some
good.
players,
Yeah, yeah.
and it seems like they're really starting to turn it on here towards the end of the season. Maybe I'm at TCU up there. You got LMU, Cal Poly. Do we get a new national champion this year?
I
And
think of all the years to have a chance at a new national champion, this is probably one of the best in recent memory. I think in the past you've had, Florida State has been strong, TCU has been strong, LSU has been strong, but rarely do we have all three or four of them strong at the same time.
yeah,
I think of all the years, this is a year where we've seen, okay, and not that I don't think anybody's truly rooting for Stanford. Like I think that's probably the lowest as another Cali school and another Power Four school.
yeah,
But Stanford can do it. LMU can do it. I think the reason you root for them is because they're the little guy. Cal Poly can do it. Once again, little guy. You always like rooting for the little guy. Florida State has the capability. Texas has the capability. I think once you get to that like Long Beach, Cal, LSU, Arizona State range, I think you start to run into teams that maybe don't have the depth
mm-hmm.
needed to win that national championship. But at the end of the day, all it takes is getting hot at the right time, right? You got to win four matches to take home the ring. So anything's
Speaking
possible.
speaking of the little guy, Cal Poly jumping up from 6 to 3 in this week's rankings. That's a pretty notable jump, and I think it leads you right into our coach
Yeah,
of the
coaches on
beat.
the beach chair award, right? Hey, Todd Rogers, no stranger to kicking back on a beach chair. We hope you take it out to Pismo Beach, crack open a nice cold stout or porter, and enjoy yourself kicking back there in San Luis Obispo. You've deserved it. 5-1 on the weekend. You got to win over number one or number two at the time, UCLA. You got to win over number three LMU at the time, and then also I think a good win over Stetson.
Mm-hmm.
Only dropping the final match of the season or weekend
Yeah,
season. Goodness gracious, almost, but not quite. To Long Beach State, but once again, it's tough to beat a good team three times. You already took down Long Beach at the Big West mid-year. I'm not sure you want to beat them again before you got to play them in the championship. I think you almost like taking that loss.
yeah. Good on you, Todd, and good on you, Cal Poly. I'll start with who's in for me because I definitely know the least out of the two of us. So I'm gonna throw my numbers out there, and we'll see where we're at after this. But number one, I have TCU. They're gonna be the first at large team. Number two,
Yeah.
USC. I have them winning the MPSF.
Oh, okay.
I
So
think
this
it's
is
gonna be a little bit of a flip around from the Pac-12 now that they're in a new conference. You know, might look familiar, but new conference.
Now, I think this is right. I want to get into the conversation. We
Yeah.
both agree TCU is probably the one seed. They're going to be the at-large bid because the Big 12 does not qualify for a bid. However, I would like to take a little contention with your point. You have USC as the two seed
Uh huh.
in the NCAA tournament. Okay.
Yep.
Even if they win the MPSF,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have them jump from 7 to 2.
They still got 2 more weekends.
Listen, I think that's going to be a big weekend for them. I think there's going to be lots of opportunity to take some dubs, right? If you're winning the MPSF, you're
Yep.
probably beating some combo of Cal, Grand Canyon, UCLA, Stanford, some combo. But I'm not
Yep.
sure you're beating all four in order to do it. I don't think the tournament can shake out that way. And you probably, if you are to beat all four, it means you had to take a loss at some point to one of them.
Yeah.
So I think you're gonna have a tough time getting yourself up into that two spot. Now, don't get me wrong, I have USC as in the tournament, and obviously they have a big weekend up ahead at the Center of Effort Challenge in San Luis Obispo, with the aforementioned Beach Chair Award winner Cal Poly and LMU and TCU and all the good schools. So you're gonna have a chance to win some tight matches, but I'm not sure you're gonna be able to earn the two seed.
And this is why you're going to go second because you definitely have the better logic of the two of us. But
No, 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 because
I'm going to throw it out there for the Trojans, and, I hope they can prove me right. That'd be pretty awesome.
that would be.
Um,
Hey, you did
but
better in the bracket challenge last year than I did. And honestly, at this point, if I was a betting man, I would bet with Michael. But I do enjoy kind of going the back and forth for it, and I like that you had USC in there. I think it's
it's
hard to
it
bet against defending national champs.
it's definitely a mountain to climb from where they're at to where they are needing to be for my rankings.
Yeah,
But I don't put it past Dane. I think he's kind of proven that in the past at the tournament is like when they get into the tournament, it doesn't matter what seed they are, they're a threat.
yeah. I'm not sure
And
they've been anything outside of one or two in the last 6 to 7 years, but and I'm with you that the MPSF champ will be the two seed. I just happen to
okay,
agree that they'll be
okay,
UCLA,
okay.
and you have them at USC.
Well, talking about the other one is UCLA as my number three as the next at-large bid. Then Cal Poly winning the Big West, LMU, Stanford, Texas, Florida State, Long Beach, and Arizona State, and LSU are my next at-large picks after LMU wins their conference. Then FAU winning their conference, Georgia State winning their conference. I'm sorry, Collin.
Hmm. Mhm. Uh-huh.
Stetson winning the
Yeah.
ASUN for us, Boise State winning their conference, and then Chattanooga winning their conference. So that
Yeah.
those are my 16 seeded teams. The at-large bids definitely got a little hairy as we
Yeah.
started going down the list. It does make it a lot harder with only 16 teams getting in instead of 17, and I think this was the first time actually writing it out. I was like, holy cow, these at-large bids are going to be really tough to get.
Yeah, yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And I think it's worth noting, right, folks that are like, oh, 17, 16 teams. It was 17 back when we had the 9 automatic bid conferences. And unfortunately, we lost the CCSA bid. So obviously, the MPSF took the place of the Pac-12. And then the Big 12 and the CCSA kind of like are two not quite big enough to be conferences. The rule right now is that you have to have 6 teams for 2 years or apply for a waiver. Last year, the CCSA received the waiver as a 5 team conference. But then Grand Canyon said, deuces, we're going to MPSF, and they got the heck out of there. I think you and I agree on most of the conference champs. I think I picked UCLA for MPSF. Not that that's going to really make a big difference in the NCAA tournament. The MPSF champ and the runner-up and the runner to the runner-up and the runner to the runner to the runner-up are probably going to be in the NCAA tournament. Um, but then I also had Cal Poly, had LMU. I think the WCC is one of the craziest tournaments, by the way, because the fact that they do like a double limb tourney in
Yeah.
2 days is just a gnarly setup.
They do that pool play too.
Yeah, that's right. Dude, they're one of the craziest like tournaments that I've ever seen. I'm like, I could not imagine coaching in that, but it is, I don't want to say wrapped up, but Pepperdine and LMU are probably going to play in the finals,
Yeah.
unless Jeff Alzina has his say, and then he will make sure that it's LMU versus Santa Clara in the finals. But I'm not sure that that's gonna happen a ton. And then we also had ASUN champs. I did pick Stetson, but I feel like you really want to call it a coin toss between UNF and Stetson,
Mm-hmm.
and honestly, Florida Gulf. And very few things in this planet would make me quite as happy as seeing Chris Sweat cash in all of the 3-2 losses that he has taken this season. I mean, I think he's 11-10, and I think 8 of them are 3-2 losses.
Oh my goodness.
Like, I mean, that's banking some serious chips if you ask me. I mean, shoot. So I do have Stetson as the ASUN champ. That's where my bet would go. I think we both picked FAU, so obviously that
Mm-hmm.
stays the same. With slight discrepancy in the Sun Belt. I don't know. It felt
No bias.
wrong. Felt wrong to not pick my own team. So, and as you said, I think a couple weeks ago, this is our podcast, so we get to say what I want. and, uh, and so it's my podcast, and I'm going to say that Coastal Carolina wins the Sun Belt. And then a little change up in the Southland Conference Championship. I think the location of it being in New Orleans, it just makes it really hard on Boise. They
Yeah.
travel so much throughout the year. I think they get to be at home going into the championships, which will be nice, but it's just such a grind traveling out there, playing those matches and doing that whole thing. Corpus has a distinct advantage. Obviously, I'm kind of rooting for Bernardo's and then the Boise State crew and Allison and even Luna like to go get that thing done. But I do think Corpus has the advantage. And then we both picked Chattanooga for our OVC champs.
I think the other thing with the Southland Championship is the last 2 years they've run into some serious weather with that tournament, and it's really put delays on different games. And I almost think that could even the odds with the travel, because now everyone's kind of playing that emotional game of up and down, up and down, up and down. I don't
Yeah.
know if there's weather planned for this year, but I mean, if we play the gambler's luck, the odds are there is going to be weather somewhere down there.
Yeah, I will say the other thing that plays to Corpus's favor is their schedule coming up, and we'll
Mm.
talk about that in a little bit. But I do think they're setting themselves up really well to go into that Southland Championship feeling good and strong about themselves. So
Yeah.
that those are kind of my champions, my at larges. I think we had similar. Obviously, TCU being the 1 seed. I have Florida State as the 5 seed. I think that they have a really strong strength of schedule. You put them at the 8. I also gave USC the 6 seed.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, I think probably winning the conference championship gives you some really good favorability towards being high up. I
Mm-hmm.
think Cal Poly's on a heater. UCLA obviously would have to beat some really good teams to be the MPSF champ. Um, and then LMU's just been strong all season. A couple slip ups, but I'm not sure enough to drop them much out of the top 5.
Yeah.
Florida State, I think they're going to win the CCSA once again, which means they're going to have a win over LSU. They're going to have another win over South Carolina, and that would mean they'd have to beat Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're going to get it done. I think Texas got the best of them in Tallahassee, and that is a phenomenal win for them. But when it comes to CCSA championship time, Brooke Niles likes getting a ring on her finger. All right, she likes beating TCU. She likes getting it done, and so I think Florida State gets the higher bid because of that win over Texas to end the season. Stanford obviously will have a good season. They'll fall somewhere short in the semifinals or quarterfinals of the MPSF championship. They'll turns out shocking. They'll still be good, and they'll make their way to the championship. Texas once again
Mm-hmm.
probably gets that win over LSU, maybe gets another win over South Carolina, falls short to Florida State, which gives them the 8 seed. Cal sneaking in from the MPSF. They like to upset somebody, so I could see Cal like beating USC, forcing Southern Cal to like go through the losers bracket, and then Cal losing another couple matches right there. But maybe they lose to a Grand Canyon, but they got that win over USC, keeps them in the tournament, puts them at 9. Long Beach State, phenomenal year thus far. Already shown a win over Cal Poly. Hard for me to keep them out, so I'm going to keep them in there. And then my final at large, drum roll please. The perennial powerhouse LSU Tigers. I think they've shown they're still really darn good at the sport. They played close matches with a lot of people. Now, I think there's a lot of cases for a lot of teams
Mm-hmm.
to me, and I've said this before, the team that has shown the ability to play at the highest level at the end of the day for me in the NCAA tournament is the team that deserves that chance. LSU is the team with wins over Cal, with wins over Southern Cal, with wins over Long Beach State. To me, that gives you the pedigree to go get it.
Yeah.
A lot of teams do not have as good a wins. Obviously, you got Stetson. So, like, if Stetson were to not win the ASUN, I think that's actually a very viable conversation to have Stetson versus LSU. I don't think UNF is the team that gets to have that conversation because UNF hasn't had the major wins.
Yeah.
Kind of getting into that, right? I think we have a last four conversation
Mm-hmm.
that you and I are going to work on a little bit. Last four in for me are obviously LSU, Long Beach State, Cal, and Texas. As
Mm-hmm.
I've said, I think, Texas has done a lot to earn their spot. They've got that win over Florida State in Tallahassee. They got the wins over LSU. Cal wins over Southern Cal, wins over LSU, win over Texas, albeit early in the season, still counts. And as far as bad losses go, they don't have any, right?
Yeah.
Their worst loss, quote unquote, is LSU. Now, granted, they have two matches against Grand Canyon, they have two matches against Hawaii, they got a match against Washington. All of those would drastically hinder their ability to go to the NCAA tournament. But I'm not sure that they're going to take those.
Yeah, I'm taking more of a gambler's approach because I think the thing that the biggest difference between us is I don't have Cal in, and you don't necessarily have Arizona State in right now. So
Yeah,
those are the two teams that are kind of on the wishy washy. What my thinking is with Cal is they got a big weekend coming up in Hawaii where they're playing Grand Canyon, they're playing Hawaii twice, and then they also have to play Washington on that final weekend. I think those are all matches. If they end up losing one, two, if they lose two, I think that drops them out, and they have to win the MPSF. And
I
that's
would
going to
agree.
be a really, really, really tough road. And I think Hawaii is still fighting for that spot. I think Grand Canyon could be fighting for a spot here. So I can see this being a bad last 2 weeks for Cal.
I would wholeheartedly agree that Grand Canyon is still fighting for the spot. To me, Hawaii is Big West Championship or bust.
Okay.
Mainly because if I'm not mistaken, their record right now is 12 and 15.
Yeah.
So they have to not only go, they can't lose in the Big West Championship because I think in order to secure that winning record, right, they have to be at like 17 wins. So
Oh.
either they have to have a heck of a weekend this weekend, which is possible,
Yeah.
but they haven't shown quite that capability yet, right? Or they have to win the Big West Championship. So to me, yes, it can hurt Cal. I'm not sure it can help Hawaii. It can, in my opinion, help Grand Canyon. I think Grand Canyon is one of the first four out. I think they've got nice wins over LSU and Stetson.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a loss to Arizona State. It's not really the end all be all. But once again, the concerning thing for me on their resume right now is that no big win.
Yeah.
You have to
Yeah.
show me that you have a capability of competing for that national championship. LSU beating the defending national champ, who we've all talked about, is going to get hot and is going to play good volleyball at the end of the year, right? LSU has shown that their ability to do that. Grand Canyon has done the tried and true method of not losing to anybody below, but not beating anybody above. And I know
Mm-hmm.
Matt McDevitt listens every weekend. So, Matt, I want you to know that I have faith in the Lopes, but you got work to do. You have to go beat Cal. You have to try to go beat TCU. And even then, I'm still not sure it's enough, but it goes a lot further towards your case if you can do that. And
Yeah.
obviously, an MPSF championship or an
Yep. Yep.
MPSF finals appearance probably moves you into it.
Oh yeah.
But you have work to do. Those are big matches that you have to win, and it's not you're not on the inside looking out. You're on the outside looking in, and that's a really tough spot to be in our sport.
And I think that's also the case for Arizona State. Is their schedule was really really tough this year,
Yeah,
but they also never really took a match from one of these tournament teams that we're talking about.
yeah.
And so, but the difference with them is they're playing three teams coming up that are pretty much secured into the tournament.
hmm
And if they take one of those and then have a good weekend at the Big 12 championship, I think they're securely in. All they need is one more big win for me.
I think they need a big win. I don't think they have the big win. Right, that's my concern. You got to
True.
win over Grand Canyon. You got to win over Stetson. To me, those are the biggest wins. And once again, I think outside looking in is the toughest spot to be in our sport. You see it with the top 20. We talk about it all the time. FIU, Hawaii, right? Those schools lost to teams. Washington lost to teams they shouldn't have, and didn't move out of the top 20 because voters tend to
Mm-hmm.
be and committee people tend to be on the side of the team that's in there,
Yeah.
right? It's harder to lose your spot than it is to earn your spot. And so I think that's where Arizona State, I think that's where Grand Canyon are going to fall short from that position.
What is your like the ASUN? We've had two teams into the rankings pretty much every single week now, UNF and Stetson.
Yeah.
Stetson ends up winning it. Like, is there any case for UNF trying to get another at-large bid with the season that they've had?
Once again, this is my thing, and I'll say it right. Corpus and UNF, and I said it to you, are the two most deserving teams, in my opinion, that aren't going to get in, and scheduling is the thing that gets in their way.
Mm.
right? North Florida has played, what is that, 6 ranked matches, 7 ranked matches this year,
Yeah.
and you only won one of them, which is not your fault because you're not supposed to win a ton of them.
Mm-hmm.
You are supposed to lose some of them, but you got to put yourself in the position to go take those wins. Your win is over FIU, and it was 5-0. I don't want to call it dominant, but it was handed, right? And your other match, your other closest match is Stetson,
Yeah.
right? And that's a great game, but that's a conference game. That's a rivalry game. You're going to get that anyway. You didn't give yourself a chance at the teams 12, 13, 11, 10. You got to play LSU. You got to play
Florida State
Grand Canyon.
a couple
Yeah,
times.
right. You got LMU. You're not supposed to win that. Stanford. You're not supposed to win that. Southern Cal. You're not supposed to win it. Long Beach. You're not supposed to win it. Now, granted, if you do win it, right, I think you're in,
Yep.
right? But you didn't give yourself that chance. Now, they do give themselves that chance this weekend,
Mm-hmm.
but now it's do or die time.
Yep.
Right? They've got Texas, they've got Corpus, and they got Cal Poly left on their schedule. I don't think it's this weekend. I think it's next
Yeah, I think it's
weekend.
split up between the 2 weekends actually.
Maybe I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But
We have
anyway,
the teams here. We just don't know what weekend it is.
yeah, we're just not that organized. It's right. Those are big matches. But what I could see totally happening, right, is you go take a win over Texas and then lose to Corpus.
Yeah.
Right? And now neither of you get in. And Corpus, once again, they have a schedule that can for sure do it. Right? They got LSU, Tulane, South Carolina, and Southern Miss this weekend. They got Cal Poly and North Florida to close out the season.
Yeah.
Hey, you go win 5 out of those 6 matches, you're in. But that's so much pressure because you didn't give yourself a chance earlier in the season.
Mm-hmm.
And you took your losses. You took a loss to Utah, lost to Boise at the conference tournament, lost to Tulane. Right? Those are tough. Those are tough to bounce back from. But I think both those teams are extremely talented. And if you put them in the national tournament, I wouldn't be upset whatsoever. But you got teams like Grand Canyon who are out there battle testing themselves all the time. Arizona State is a deserving team
Mm-hmm.
that's probably not going to make it. And that's neither here nor there, but both those teams gave themselves a shot. I'm not sure North Florida or Corpus gave themselves a shot.
That's true. That's true. I meant North Florida. The big thing for them is they do have a win over Austin Peay. That's a big win.
That's huge. That's huge, right? And that's a big case for Stetson too. When they come out of it, and Corpus, right? They've got 2 wins over Coastal Carolina.
Okay.
So ultimately, right, they're giving themselves a really good chance at making the turn. No, I think the other things, right? My teams that are just on the step out, right? I have FIU, who's one of the teams closest to
Yep.
being in the tournament. You've got Washington, you've got Hawaii. All those teams, I think, did a good job playing a tough schedule. I don't think they won the matches they necessarily needed to. They also are going to fall short of one really important category, which is you have to be above 500.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have a 500 or better record to be an at-large bid. So unless you're planning on winning your conference, right, you can't schedule too tough. And right now, Washington's 11 and 13 with matches versus Long Beach, FIU, Cal, and Stanford, and the MPSF championship. So that's tough. I mean, if you're getting who's the worst team in the MPSF right now? Oregon.
Yeah.
So that's one. I'm running out of
Good
other
luck.
games to count as dubs in there, right? Like just getting to 500 is going to be a feat in and of
Yeah.
itself. Hawaii, same thing. You got Cal twice, Grand Canyon twice, and then a Big West championship. Great. You're going to go get your win over Sac State or, UC Davis or Cal
Mm-hmm.
State Bakersfield or Cal State Northridge, but then you're going to have to go beat Long Beach and Cal Poly, and,
Yeah.
and that's going to bring you right back below 500. And I think that's just a really tough spot to be in. FIU, same thing, right? You're going to go Oregon, Long Beach twice, Washington. You lose 3 out of the 4 of those, right? Now all of a sudden you're 13 and 18. You got to win 5 Conference USA games just to get to 500. You have to win the tournament. That's where you're at that point. And,
Yeah.
and that's obviously not a piece that we talk about a ton, but like it's an important thing if you're a conference that's multi-bid and you're trying to earn that at large, you have to schedule enough dubs in order to get yourself above 500.
I think what could be really interesting is if Hawaii or FIU, maybe FAU has a case to get in as an at large, but like if one of those teams wins their tournament that isn't necessarily the predicted favorite, like that's got to feel uneasy for LSU because you've taken all the cards out of your hand now. And
Yeah.
is beating Florida State enough now in the CCSA championship?
Beating Texas though, right? That's the other team that's in that CCSA. You get a win over Texas and Florida State. That's a slightly different conversation, I
Yep.
think. And to your point, right, FAU runs into the same problem if they don't win their conference tournament that I think I've been talking about, right, which is the no big wins.
Yeah.
Right. FAU has beaten Georgia State, has beaten FIU once, but lost to FIU once. They've beaten all the teams they're supposed to. They haven't beaten any of the teams they're not supposed to. And a loss to Stetson and a loss to FIU probably puts you on the outside looking in. I think CUSA is a one bid team, one bid conference this year. Who that bid is? Tulane would like to have a word about the CUSA championship. UTEP, the Foo Master,
Oh
already proved to
yeah.
not be cursed a couple of weeks ago. So I think, the CUSA might not be all wrapped up. The only team I have confidence probably won't win the CUSA are Tarleton and Jacksonville State. Those are the
Yeah.
two that I think are probably um,
They got an uphill climb.
they
Hey,
got
I
an uphill climb.
I think this was a lot of good information. I think it's definitely great to talk about. Tune in next week and see how much our opinions change after one weekend.
Boom. And once again, nobody cares about our opinions except ourselves.
Yep.
So this is all for us. Michael, how was your weekend?
Yeah, we went to Eastern Kentucky. We dealt with some weather here in Clarksville. It made travel getting out and coming back pretty tough. Um, got to see the three ASA North teams. Ended up coming out without a win, but we were doing some good things, especially on Friday when we ended up driving up on Friday morning, which is a 4 hour drive in the weather. It was about a 4.5 hour drive. Got out, played immediately almost, and we played North Alabama. They took it to us, but we held our own on a couple of the courts, and then we had EKU for a night match under the lights, which I think was absolutely phenomenal experience. I think Jeff set that up perfectly, and it was a really I was a little hesitant about it. I'm not gonna lie, but it was a really cool experience for our team to get to play under lights. It's not something that we normally get to do.
Yeah.
We did have a lightning delay in the middle of that, so our day became 13 hours of driving, traveling, playing. Not the best situation. But
Yeah.
yeah, overall, I think the weekend went very well. I think our program grew through this weekend, both culturally and in skill moving forward, which is what we're looking for right now.
That's all you can ask for. That's all you can ask for.
How about you? You guys were at home. How'd it feel?
Yeah, it was nice to be at home. Weather was perfect, 84, sunny. We had some events on campus, which actually brought out a really great crowd for a UAB match. Played UAB nice and tight. We split it with them. Split the 4-5, so we won the five, they won the four, and then weren't looking hot, honestly, in the
Yeah.
first set of the second wave. I was like, oh gosh. Our threes were winning. I was like, this is great. Our twos got their teeth kicked in like 21-12, and our ones lost 21-17. So I was like, oh, well, that isn't fun. And then our twos were like, oh, hold on, we remember how to play now. And one set to 21-17, I think, or 21-15, something like that. Like almost flipped it around on them.
Yeah.
Our threes won in two sets. That was nice. They took care of their business. They played in the win. They had a good time. Ones couldn't pull it out. That's my fault. I sit on that court, and that's going to be a Collin L, not the player L. And then our twos, I actually, for the first time in my career, I couldn't bear to like be there. I was like
Ooh,
ready to throw up. And
the
so I actually
butterflies.
went like back by our shed and was just kind of breathing deeply. And I actually was not really watching. Like I was listening to our team cheer and then UAB's team cheer. And I think it was especially hard because our twos pair is Madeline Sigmund and Anarita, and Siggy is a former UAB Blazer. So a 2-2 duel in a third set against your old team is a lot.
That's a lot of
That is a
emotion.
lot of emotion, and they won it 15-13 and took down a huge dub, and that was super fun. It was really great for our gals to experience that. Had to turn around and come out against UNCW, and I got to say, first wave came out hot, right? Took the 4-5 from them. And I
There
don't
you
want to say
go.
no problem because our fours won in three sets, but you know,
Say no
we
problem. It's
won,
our
right?
podcast. We can say what we want.
We can say what we want, but we won. Also, special shout out. It is or when this comes out, yesterday will have been David Fisher's birthday. So happy birthday,
Happy
Fish.
birthday, Dave.
Um, and so Anyway, we came out, we won, we're up 2-0. Except Wilmington's 1-2-3 are really darn good.
Mm.
And they came out and they were really darn good. And we got reverse swept, and that sucked. That was a terrible way to end Friday. But we got an opportunity to come back, bounce back, take care of our home sand. Anna joined the indoor team for that day, so we were short. Did a little lineup shuffle to make sure that we had to pull a twos blocker out. And so still managed to get the sweep over Lynchburg. Special shout out our exhibition pair, Jillian Stein and Ryla Bryant. Jillian Stein served 20 straight points to win the set 21-0 in the exhibition pair, which was really sick. I mean, really cool to
That's
like, it's hard. And she was jump topspin serving the entire time in the wind.
it doesn't matter
So
who you're playing. That is a feat.
I was like, the fact that you stayed aggressive the whole time was the most impressive part of the entire thing to me. And so really great job to them. And then finished up with Charleston and took down CFC for a 5-0 dub. Took a nice sweep. I think that always feels good to end up our home year on the sand. Over the last 2 years, we're something like, I don't know, I played 10 home matches this year and we played 8 last year. So 17-1 over the last 2 years at Coastal Carolina University. If the first home tournament of the year next year shapes up the way I think it will, I'm not sure we will continue that trend. I think we've got some decent squads coming out to town. I'm not sure. I think 17-1 was a really great record. We should be very proud of what we've accomplished so far. But yeah, so it was good to finish up at home. And then you're off to Birmingham. You're off to see the Blazers, which I just played.
Yeah, we're going to UAB. We'll see Missouri State there, Chattanooga, Southeastern Louisiana. We get to see the old squad there. And then UAB will finish up with them on Saturday. But I think one of the coolest things about this tournament is that second match of our first day, we're going to be playing five across against Chattanooga. So we
Ooh,
get to play five across before we get into this tournament and see what that holds for us. It's something that we haven't done yet. We've always played in our waves, so it will be interesting to see the normal courts that Sarah and I sit on. They're not going to have a coach necessarily, and we'll see what they can do now.
yeah, yeah, that'll be big. That'll be big. Good luck to you guys. UAB's no joke, so
Yeah.
get ready for that battle. I know you got Missouri State first. Key in on them, and then let me know how the old Lions of Southeastern are looking. We're headed down to Charleston, head down to Chucktown for a little Friday action. Playing Wilmy at 12 and Charleston at 2. Our girls are starting to ask if we always play them every match of the year, and I said no, just most of the time. And in fact, when I texted David this morning for his birthday, he goes, "I know it's been a long time since we've seen each other, but I'm really looking forward to Friday." And I responded with, "Distance makes the heart grow fonder." So everybody's got a good attitude about it, but we're just gonna play down and back on Friday, enjoy ourselves, and then we got camp Saturday, Sunday here at Old CCU. So nothing like a mid-season camp to fire everybody up.
Is it still
Um,
too late to sign up, or can they
it's
show
never
up?
too late. It's never too late to sign up. We take walk-ups. If you happen to be in the Conway Myrtle Beach area and you want to come by, feel free. The link's on Volleyball Life. And if you want to come to our next one, shoot us an email and we'll be sure to pass along that information to you.
There you
Looking
go.
around the country, the Clash of the Titans round
We're in week
1754.
8, so round 8.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, round 8 of Clash of the Titans, obviously the center of effort tournament, hosting the best of the West and the East. TCU, LMU, Arizona State, Cal Poly, UCLA, Stanford, Florida State, and USC. I imagine that has to be taking place at Pismo Beach. Otherwise, I don't know how you have that many courts. Like if it's taking place at Cal Poly, there must be running five across. And Godspeed to you, Todd. I would never sign up to host that tournament because that looks miserable. Even if it's at the beach, it also sounds miserable, but
Yeah.
still good on you for hosting it. Any other tournaments you're kind of getting excited for?
Yeah, I think my game of the week has turned into a tournament of the week, and it's that one out in Hawaii with Grand Canyon, Hawaii, and Cal. I think there's a lot to be won and a lot to be lost in that weekend tournament. So I think eyes there. It's going to be an emotional match, and I think that could give us our first glimpse of what these conference championships are going to be, what the NCAA championship's going to be. It's going to give you that real life, like life or death of our season type of feeling, and that's always fun to watch.
Yeah. There's some other good matches, right? Georgia State's got Stetson, ULM, EKU, and North Alabama taking on in Atlanta. Washington has Long Beach, FIU, and Oregon. Oregon and Washington will be the only ones ready for rain if it does happen out that way. You've got what Davis and Pepperdine. I'm not sure, exactly what the implications are of that match, but I think it'll be a good one. FAU has UTEP, FGCU, and South Florida. South Florida played FAU 3-2 in Tallahassee last weekend, so interesting to see what they'll look like going into this weekend. FGCU had a good year, and we can't put anything past the Fu Master and his ability to challenge people and take dubs. And then finally, Boise State's hosting with some great squads: Portland, St. Mary's, Colorado Mesa, and Bakersfield in Arizona. And then my match of the week, Corpus versus Louisiana State University. As I mentioned earlier, Corpus has an outside shot at making a name for themselves, but it starts with taking some wins this weekend, right? They have to go get a dub over that LSU Tigers and the rest of the teams at that tournament. So Godspeed to everybody this weekend. It should be fun, more fun volleyball. If you're a pro volley fan, I know we're mostly a college beach volleyball deal, but if you're a pro volley fan, AVP Huntington is this weekend, so a qualifier for the league. And then we also have the Sakurama Elite 16 starting this Thursday. So that'll be, if you want FIVB, tune into VBTV. If you want AVP, tune into Bally's.
I do not
Tune
know.
into AVP Instagram and they'll tell you exactly where to watch. And then if you like college, you might have to venture out of the house and go experience some live and in the flesh.
Absolutely. And if you're watching this just like I am, Collin's lighting in the background is pretty hilarious because we started this in daylight and now it is pitch black, and I just needed to point that out this week.
I'm a big natural light guy, and I'm running out of it. So blame Michael for hosting late practice. I put it
Sorry.
on him.
Yep. All right, well, man. We will see you next week.
Yeah, Mike.
Hi from Athena.